Sense reality talk show with your host, Mike Krause. Mike has sold over $100 million in sales and offers Fortune 500 strategies, tactics, and tools to sales professionals and business leaders. He created this show with one thing in mind, for sales professionals to share their secrets with each other. Join us every Wednesday at 12 to 12:30 Eastern Time, or sign up for updates on Mike's mailing list at salessensolutions.com. Mike appreciates you listening and wishes you good luck on your next sales call.
I'll try to stop it, but my telephone, because I'm blind, talks.
Okay.
Try to kill it, okay? Hello?
Hello.
Mike, how are you?
Good, Vince. How are you?
I'm
Good.
doing well this morning.
Good, good. I'm excited for you to take time out of your busy day, and I'm fascinated to speak to you about multiple things because I myself have a passion towards sailing, and I want you to start off with telling a little bit more about yourself, your background, and kind of what makes you unique, because I don't want to spoil it for the listeners, but I just think you're an incredible person to do what you do and with your condition. I just think it's a unique opportunity. So why don't you share with the listeners a little bit more about Vince?
Okay. Mike, I am a blind person. I was the only blind person to win a national sailing championship in which I defeated 40 very good able-bodied sighted sailors. And I used what I had learned in business and sales to train a team to be able to function as a team and get a blind guy driving a boat around a race course ahead of everybody else. My business background goes way on back. I worked in venture capital for a while. I had the opportunity to do some turnarounds and to help start some new companies. That was a lot of fun. I moved from that to becoming an entrepreneur and doing my own thing. I ran some marinas, and I had a couple of other businesses, and that led to the business I have now, which is a yacht dealership, which has been a lot of fun. Been a lot of challenges, especially in these economic times. But I've worked in the medical area. I've worked in manufacturing, and most of the time have had sales positions or consulting positions. In sales, and the way we started this business, we wanted to be a new yacht dealer, and the rules are you got to pay for the boat before you get it. We didn't have any money. But I was able to talk a major manufacturer into shipping me boats on 90-day billing, and my partner at that time said, well, what happens if we don't sell them in 90 days? And I said, well, you know what, that's just not an option. And that's how we got started. For 11 years running, I was the top salesperson in North America for a large international yacht manufacturer. So I've had a pretty varied background in different industries, different types of positions, and so forth. Educationally, I've got an MBA, and of course that's served me well as I've gone through business. But things have picked up along the way: the team building skills, the sales skills, learning how to motivate, move sales teams forward. That's kind of where I spent a lot of time.
Incredible. Our show here primarily is to the sales professional and the small business owner and leader. In your vast experience, obviously being blind with a disability, what do you feel a salesperson? I mean, you're pretty much all on feel, especially in sailing. You're on the feel of the helm. You're on the feel of the wind. You're on the feel of everything. And I think that's just like one of the core values of a successful salesperson, or just a successful person generally. I guess it's your instincts that take over. I find a lot of times that salespeople just won't even go out and talk to people, and they're in sales, and they're afraid of confrontation, they're afraid of rejection, they're afraid of being turned down. How have you been able to overcome all of your internal fears, and just tell me a little bit more about that.
I think from the time I was a young child, I had just an incredibly awesome mom who told me that you can do anything you choose to do. I'll tell you a quick story so you get a background on Mom. I was about 8 years old, and I told her one day I wanted to play Little League Baseball. When my mother bought me a glove and took me to the field, that probably would have been a good time for her to suggest the relationship between sight and baseball.
Yes.
But, I remember at the end of that day, when I had obviously, I couldn't find the ball, got hit by balls, couldn't hit a ball. It was not a good day. And I climbed back into the car, and I think Mom taught me the best lesson that I learned about what you're talking about. Because she asked me how it went, and I was, pretty upset because I didn't do well at all. And she put her arm around me, and she hugged me, and she said, "But you know what, son? You tried." And what I think I learned from that was failure was not necessarily not succeeding. It was about not trying. And so I've, whatever endeavor I wanted to take on, whether it was going to go race in a national championship or whatever, I just had that strength that came from that one incident that said you're going to get out there and try. I truthfully think that if we're a sales manager or a salesperson, that it's important that we understand there's a real distinction in how we approach things. I think you have to approach things not from a position of sight, but from a position of vision.
Mm-hmm.
I think my lack of sight has got me to see things in a different direction. When you don't have sight, that's not one of the tools you can use. And in sales, where I think that has helped me has been that, the body language, the things the customer are doing, they really don't affect me, because I can listen, identify what their needs are, and what is it that their concerns are, so that we're addressing and keeping the presentation moving in a direction that's going to work for them. And I think that was pretty important. I have a colleague who tells a story about one time we had a person in the office, and the salesman was having difficulty trying to, close this person. And I went in to sit and talk with the client to find out what was going on and what do we need. And he tells the story that this client was giving me all kinds of facial expressions and crossing his arms and slumping in the chair. And he says, "You didn't even notice that. You just kept on going."
Right? Yeah. Like a runaway train. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. One of the formulas I think there are for success, and I think it comes back to the same story, is, Dean Bremer of the Latimer Group one time put this formula out, and I thought it was so good, and I've used it, just time and time again. But he said success equals focus plus commitment minus distraction. And I think not having sight removes an awful lot of distraction from what we're doing. And I think in sales, because I'm not distracted, wondering, if one part of my brain is to, well, why is he crossing his arms or whatever, I have the opportunity to really listen to what they're saying. And you got to listen to what they're saying, between the lines kind of thing. And that's something I've tried to teach my sales staff to do. It's like, it's not what they're doing, it's not what they're saying, it's what are you hearing. And you really have to, listen your way through this.
I agree with you 100%, Vince, and it's the number one mistake that I see besides, confidence is, and the fear of rejection is the lack of listening that we do. We have the 2 ears and 1 mouth, but we have 2 mouths and no ears. I find that salespeople just go on and on, just like the gentleman you just mentioned. You could plainly hear that this person was not even listening, but to him, he thought he was. And it's amazing how many times, even when you're on the consumer end, a salesperson approaches you, and it's all about them. And the minute a consumer or myself feel it, that the salesman's in it for himself, I know everyone backs away because I do it. And I think a lot of salespeople just go out there and just keep talking about themselves and the product and the features and benefits. And it's like if you're trying to sell them a yacht, and they were interested in, a smaller boat, and you're trying to upgrade them to a 100-foot boat, you're obviously not even listening to them. So I find that to be true, and your skills must be extremely dialed in to be a fantastic listener.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I try to get salesmen to understand the most important part of the sales process is the time you spend with the customer, getting to know him, and really getting to understand, what their needs are. The old story of tell me what your pain is, and I'll find the aspirin to fix it. But I will probably spend 20, 30 minutes with a client when they come in here, answering questions and understanding what's going to work for them, and then present the products that meet their needs. And when you're doing that, everybody's on the same team. We're all going in the same direction. Yeah, this will work. It fits the budget. It fits their needs, and so forth. And I think that's a lot of times salespersons miss that. And I think it's important for sales managers to help to guide people through that and help them with their pre-qualification skills, which is sort of key to get you going in the right, in the right direction. We do have to get people to understand you may be excited about the product and you may be whatever, but what excites you is not necessarily what meets the needs of the person who's sitting in front of you. And that's the kind of the direction I think we have to take in working with that salesperson. But you're right. I've had salespeople that they tell you about all the times they've crossed an ocean and all the things that, it's all about them. It's got nothing to do with a guy who just wants to have fun with his family on the weekend,
Yeah. And I actually, one little thing here was Zig Ziglar said, don't be a topper. Don't try to, if your customer or prospect says, I'm looking for a 32-foot boat, and go, well, I've got a 48-foot boat. Right then, it's the ego syndrome, and you've ruined that guy that just wants the 32-foot boat. It's kind of funny how we do that. And also, you keep bringing up sales managers, and I got an interesting email last night with a stat. Only 15% of sales managers have had any formal sales training. So that, to me, sounds like a recipe for disaster, because if the sales manager has no listening training or no needs building or questioning, then they're out there teaching people the bad habits that they haven't learned. And that's just it's a domino effect.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that when you've been in sales and you understand what's going on in the process, and you've been there and you're able to do it, you're much, much more able to guide salespeople through or to teach salespeople these skills. Because when they're asking questions or they don't understand, you've been there. And that helps a whole lot, being able to share your experiences with them that relate to what the problems are that they're having. I think the other thing, too, we have sales staff that at times we've had a salesman who's doing well, and all of a sudden he's in some kind of a sales slump.
Yeah.
And, you can't just run in and go, come on, we're going to sell, we're going to do this, rah, rah, rah. It's not going to work. You need to understand and you need to listen to him as to, so what changed and what's going on with him, because there's something not working for him, or he'd be back on the selling. Maybe he's not comfortable with the products. Maybe he's not comfortable with the new promotions. He's got some discomfort that's not allowing him to let his natural enthusiasm and belief flow. And I think that's something else we have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I agree, because I think a lot of managers just go, well, you got to get out there, you got to get out there, make more calls, make more calls, make more calls. And it's just like if you're rowing in the wrong direction and you keep rowing, you're never going to get to your destination. You got to slow down and figure out where you are, get your compass out, and get some grounding and ask some questions to that sales representative like you do. And it could be a personal issue. You could be going through, he or she could be going through a divorce. They could have just had something personal, a death in the family. There's a lot of things that happen off the non-8 hours of just working. There's 16 other hours in the day, and there's a lot of things that people go through, personal hardships that unfortunately does affect the sales person. So
that's really true. And in my case, the sales staff here are all commission salespersons. That's tough. Guys who can be successful doing commission sales can earn good money, but they always have that pressure of, am I going to get a sale and get the mortgage payment done or whatever? And that's one of the major things that I think I have to be sensitive of to these guys and understanding. He didn't sell anything last month, so he's got to be having some problems, moving forward. And, to work within their problems. It's like selling anything else. You've got to understand where the pains and the problems are and what are the solutions to those in order for them to, get back on the track. You can go out and say, go make more phone calls. But if they're not effective phone calls,
right,
they're not working effectively on those phone calls, they're dialing for no good reason at all. They're just dialing to be dialing.
Yeah. And that's, I've had a lot of good and bad managers in my time, and they're like, yeah, make more phone calls. And I'm like, that's really not the issue. The issue is this, and this. Or I'd say, okay, yeah, I'm going to make more phone calls today, and then I just tweak my style. I would call after 5 o'clock or before 9 in the morning. And I'm a big believer in, I don't need to make 100. I don't want to make 100 phone calls in a day. That's the last thing I want to do. I want to make 5 and make 4 of them count. No one wants to get on the phone and be a telemarketer all day. But if you slow down the process and you really study your prospect, and it could be just by asking them the last time that you saw them, what's the best time to get a hold of you, or what's the best form of communication. A texting, everyone's doing the texting now, so that could be the best way to communicate with your prospects. And it's not an age-specific thing. I just had an 80-year-old person tell me texting is the best thing to get a hold of them. And, if I didn't ask that closing question of how do you want me to get a hold of you, or how do you want to continue communication, I would have guessed wrong. And I think that's an important thing, to keep the lines of communication open in the sales process, so you're not working harder, you're working smarter.
You're bringing up another point that I think is very important, is that most people back up and run away from change. That's what we have.
Yes.
One of my keynote addresses, I talk about that change is a gift. And it's a gift because it gives us the opportunity to find things that we didn't think were possible before. And, if I think about 20 years ago, I remember when the greatest thing we got in the office was a fax machine, because we could get something to a customer pretty quick. Well, today now, with computers and getting people on the same website that we're on and showing them product and making presentations, it's unbelievable. It's a global market. I mean, we sold 4 boats last month to people not in this country. And we have to be ready to identify those changes that are coming up, and we need to work with them. And your point about using texting and cell phones, we find that people jump on the Internet, and they've got a pretty good idea what they want. They're calling in for information. You set up appointments where we used to have people just drop in. We're having phone conversations with people that are in foreign countries who are setting up an appointment because they're going to come in on Saturday. I mean, it's a whole different market. And I think what we have to then do is to sit back down and look at what our business model is all about, and to be sure that our business model is consistent with what's going on, with whatever change we got going on in the economy. Young
Absolutely.
They're way busier today than they ever were. And we have to find how does the recreation of boating fit into that lifestyle. And make it more relevant to them. And I think a lot of times we stick with the old model, so we've been doing this for years and it just works great. Well, it did. But change, we're all aware of the big changes, When the recession comes up, we're aware of that. But there are small changes almost on a daily basis. And I think with the electronic world here, it's changing almost hourly. The things that the tools that the sales staff carry today, these the little iPad with the little small computer, that they're sitting showing someone a product, and the guy asks a question about something else, and they can bring it up on their little screen and talk to them and show them pictures and so forth. Our consumer is smarter today because he's got the Internet to go look things up on. So you got to
absolutely
iteration and be sure that your business model and your sales model works within that environment.
Absolutely. I want to back up to our beginning conversation of you kind of taking the risk of having your own boat dealership or yacht dealership, and you said to your partner, it's not an option. We only have 90 days to turn this inventory, turn these boats around into liquid money. Otherwise, we're really going to be in trouble. And that company gave you the start, and then they gave you the opportunity. How can you create urgency in a sales call? And then I want to talk about the sales rep about urgency too. But Well, how do you create that? That's always one of those things that, as salespeople, we do want urgency. We want to create some urgency. What are some things that you have seen, over your time?
I think that the best way I can see to get somebody, urgently wanting the product is you've got to get them excited. In other words, once you understand what their issues and problems are, and your product is solving those, they're way more interested in getting involved and getting it on board. When we talk to families who come in here and they're looking at boats, and nobody really needs to buy an expensive yacht. It's just fairly something they have to do, and mom can think of 100 other things she'd rather do with the money. But when you can get the family to see the fun, a boat is a good place for parenting because you're one-on-one with the kids and you're involved with the kids, as opposed to the baseball field or the soccer field where they're running around doing something and you're there and you're observing. A day on a boat, it's like being on an island with your family. And we talk about, the importance of family values, and we talk about the importance in the busy world when, people are traveling all over the world anymore, the importance of that. And when you start to get them excited about what's in it for them and the family, now they're really getting excited about buying a boat. And when you're only talking about, the things like, oh, we got a great financial deal, we got this, we got that, if they're not excited, they don't see that you hold the aspirin to their pain, they're not going to buy it. And I think that's what we've utilized to create the urgency to purchase and purchase now. And when a salesman comes in, he's been working with a person for a long period of time, one of my questions is, okay, well, let's go back through your notes, and what is this family's pain? What is it they're looking for? Most of the time, they can't answer the question. And when you sit down with them when they come in, and they'll come in on a Saturday, and I'll shake their hand and say, let's have a cup of coffee and start talking with them. Pretty soon you begin to understand, okay, well, what's going to excite them? What's important to them about this? What was their dream when they decided to walk through that door 2 months ago or whatever? And when you start hitting on those points, then you're going to get the sale. I think it's the same thing if you're selling services or you're selling products to companies. If you understand what their need is, because they had some need or they wouldn't have called, the more you can demonstrate that you've got the product that's the best aspirin for their pain, they're going to want it, and they're going to want it now. And that's what's guided me, I think, in trying to create the urgency for people to act now, not later.
I agree with what you just stated, all of it. And it's one of those things when I'm doing some coaching with salespeople and some guidance, and I always say, the four things to move a sales process, and it hasn't changed. Number one, are you dealing with a decision maker? Number two, do they have the pain that you keep bringing up, which is definitely something that a salesperson skips? Number three, do they have the budget? And number four, what's the time frame? Are they gonna have? Is it next year, or is it 10 years? Is it tomorrow? And if you don't go through that at least mentally as a salesperson, you're probably just wasting your time, and more importantly, you're wasting that prospect's time, because you didn't navigate. I think a big thing that a salesperson needs to do is navigate the sales call. Ask the right questions. Ask about the next step. Clarify, listen, and move the sales process through. I think it's that straightforward, but it's funny that you asked that too about the pain, and a lot of your sales reps, they come back and they go, I don't know. So, lack of questioning. So,
the other question that I asked them, and this is a technique we learned back when we were probably about 2, 3 years old. It's a great question. It's kind of like you need to know the why. We're going to buy a boat in 6 months. And I always wonder, okay, well, why is that?
Yeah, right, why? Yeah.
Why? Because it gets back to your condition of, the kid's out of college. I got the last kid out of college, and then we'll have the income. Okay, well, now you can understand that. Some people will say, well, we think it's going to take us that long to find the product. And, now we know the why, and now we can deal with the why. And, you can get to the why without saying, okay, well, why is that? And so forth. I had a client one time who said, I'm going to buy the boat next month. I'm thinking, okay, well, why would you wait a month? because we got products here you could be selling next month. And it was because his final truck payment was the next month, and then he had, the cash to make payments. And, you can work around those sort of things. And I think you really understand, the answers to those 4 questions. You really understand you've got a prospect, you understand what their pain is, and you understand how you can help them to get to where it is they want to get. And I think we have to remember as salespeople that, they came in here for a reason, and what our responsibility is to help them get what it is they need and move on down the trail.
Absolutely. We're running towards the end of our time already. Time goes by fast when you're having fun. I want to talk about, because you brought up 100% commission sales force. I've managed many of those in the past, and it is a different environment. And, it goes back to an age-old question, is money a motivator? What do you think about that, Vince? Is money a motivator?
I think it's a motivator when their backs are up against the wall and the bills are coming in. But I really think those people that I'm looking for are the guys who are motivated by the sale.
Right.
Really enjoy the fact that they got a sale, that they put a family in, in the product, they met their needs, and that excites them. Yeah, the money is obviously very good. I think the other thing that I learned in this business was, just as I have to find the pain of the customer, I've got to find the pain in the salesman. And we developed a commission structure that helps to ease, their concerns about money. Because, on a new product, which may not be delivered for 6-8 weeks, they can receive half of their commission at the time of signing of the deal. And that, takes a lot of pressure off of them and gets them out of the money situation, because if they're worrying about money, they may not be paying attention to what's the best thing for this client, and therefore they're slowing the process down. So,
yeah.
I mean, truthfully, people are motivated by money to a certain extent. But the guys that I have and have had, most of my salesmen have been with me 15, 16 years. They're really sharing a passion with their client. I mean, these guys all have a great passion for sailing and boats and so forth, and they like passing that passion on. And I think no matter what product or service you're selling, your sales staff has to be committed. That focus, commitment, minus distraction. They got to be committed to the product, to what it can do for a company. It's not just like, well, look, here's go sell this product. Yeah, okay, well, that's the only job offer I've had, so I'll go try.
Right.
You've got to find people that are excited about the product, believe in that product, and so forth. Because if they're not there, they can't pass that enthusiasm on. They're not getting a big thrill out of the fact that, I sold these services to this company, and I'm really excited about it, and it really helped this company out. And, you want them to talk proudly about the sales that they made and how it helped people. And, I learned that in the consulting and speaking business that I have. When a customer calls and says, I want to talk to you about doing training, coaching, whatever, it's like, okay, well, what do you need? And you got to get to that, because sometimes you can't meet their needs. And if you can't meet their needs and you can't help them, then, it's time for you to...
Absolutely, and I agree with everything you just said, is that, and there's nothing worse than meeting a desperate salesman. Because your consumers see it, everyone sees that you're wearing it. You might as well be wearing a blue leisure suit. They see it. We have to close down already, Vince, but I learned a lot. Tell the listeners a little bit more about how you help people, and a little bit more about your contact information, and I've really enjoyed our contact.
Well, you can go to my website, vincemorvillo.com. That's VINCEMORVILLO.com. And we do training. We do keynote addresses. And I really enjoy getting out and working with companies and seeing what they do. But that's my contact information. Email address is there. Telephone numbers are there. Call anytime. Happy to talk to people about the pains they're having and see if we can help them, or if we can't put them in the right direction. That's kind of the way we work.
Yeah, I mean, you're a first-class guy, Vince, and I've really enjoyed our conversation, and I love the dedication that you have, and I think it just shows right through in your voice and your sincerity. You know, you're just a first-class guy. So, well, I wish everyone good luck on their next sales call, and Vince, thanks for taking time out of your busy day to talk to myself and the listeners.
Glad to help.
All right. Have a great day now.
You too. Bye-bye.